My girlfriend tried to convince me my dog was a menace, so I set up a camera. The truth was far more sinister. For the last few weeks, Jessica had been on a crusade against my dog, Buddy. Buddy is a gentle, 7-year-old golden retriever I've had since he was a puppy. He's the kind of dog who wags his tail in his sleep and is more likely to try and lick an intruder than bark at one. But according to Jessica, who had moved in about 6 months ago, Buddy had become a destructive, spiteful beast. It began subtly, little comments tossed into conversation like stones into a still pond. He seems a bit needier lately, doesn't he? Or, I think he's jealous of the time we spend together. I dismissed it at first, attributing it to the normal adjustment period of blending lives. It started with small complaints. He was whining at the door all night. She'd say over morning coffee, looking exhausted. Dark circles under her eyes sold a performance. I had to get up 3 times to let him out, and then he'd just stand there. I'd sleep through it, apparently. I'd scratch Buddy's ears and apologize to Jessica, feeling a pang of guilt for my sound sleeping. Then it escalated. She claimed he was chewing on her expensive shoes, presenting a mangle heel as evidence. She said he'd knocked over a vase while she was out, that he'd growled at her when she tried to take a toy from him. Each accusation was met with my disbelief. Buddy? My Buddy? It didn't make any sense. He adored Jessica, always bringing her his favorite toy when she came home, his entire body wiggling with joy. I started to question my own perception. Was I blind to his faults because I loved him so much? The arguments started. They were no longer about isolated incidents, but about her place in my life. She'd say I cared more about the dog than her. She'd say she couldn't live in a house where she felt unsafe and where her belongings were being destroyed. The atmosphere at home grew thick with tension. Buddy would sense it, slinking away to his bed with a worried look in his eyes. The ultimatum came on a Tuesday night, sharp and final. It's him or me, Ben. I can't do this anymore. You need to find a new home for him, or I'm leaving. I was devastated. The thought of rehoming Buddy felt like a physical pain, a cold stone in my gut. I loved Jessica, but Buddy had been my constant companion through a bad breakup, through losing my job, through my father's illness. He was family. He was the one who'd lain his head on my lap when I cried. I started half-heartedly looking at rescue organizations, my heart breaking with every click, until I noticed a pattern, a glitch in the narrative she was weaving. The incidents only ever happened when I wasn't home. Jessica would text me at work with photos of a chewed-up book or a mess on the floor, but the Buddy I came home to was always the same happy, calm dog, greeting me with a wagging tail, no sign of the destructive fiend she described. The final straw was the claim that Buddy had aggressively lunged at her while she was eating dinner. She showed me a scratch on her arm, her voice trembling with what I now know was fabricated fear. I had been on a video call with my sister that evening, and in the background, I could see Buddy peacefully asleep on his bed the entire time. Things weren't adding up. The math wasn't matang, as my sister would say. The coincidence was too great. So I decided to investigate. The seed of doubt had been planted, and it was growing into a gnawing suspicion. I told Jessica I had a mandatory all-day team-building event that Saturday. I manufactured a detailed story about trust falls and corporate lectures. I left the house with my laptop bag, dressed for work, but instead drove to a coffee shop a few blocks away, my nerves jangling. After an hour, I returned home, let myself in as quietly as I could, my heart pounding as if I were the intruder. I set up my old laptop with its webcam focused on the living room and kitchen area, the epicenter of the alleged crimes. I hid it on a high bookshelf, behind a stack of books, with a clear view. Then I left again, spending the rest of the day at the movies and the library, my stomach in knots, the popcorn tasting like ash. That evening, I returned home as if nothing was wrong. Jessica was on the couch, scrolling through her phone. "How was your day?" she asked, not looking up. "Long," I said, the lie tasting bitter. "And yours?" "Stressful," she sighed, a masterpiece of feigned exhaustion. Buddy was a nightmare again. He got into the trash and spread it all over the kitchen. I had to spend an hour cleaning it up. I just nodded, my blood running cold. I knew with absolute certainty that Buddy had been with me in the bedroom all day, napping on my bed. The trash can was pristine. I waited until she was in the shower to retrieve the laptop. My hands were shaking as I opened a video file, the progress bar crawling across the screen. What I saw made me feel sick, a visceral revulsion that started in my stomach and rose to my throat. For the first couple of hours, Jessica just watched TV and scrolled on her phone. Buddy wandered in once, and she shooed him away harshly, a gesture I'd never seen before. Then, around noon, she got up. She went to the kitchen, pulled the trash bag out of the can, and deliberately, methodically, emptied its contents onto the floor. Coffee grounds, eggshells, wrappers. She even took a banana peel and smeared it on the tiles. She then took a picture with her phone, her face a blank mask. A few hours later, she picked up one of her own shoes from the bedroom, a nice leather sandal, brought it into the living room, and used a pair of scissors to meticulously shred the leather strap. Another photo. The final act was the most chilling. She approached Buddy, who was sleeping on his bed. She knelt down, and when he lifted his head, tail thumping weakly, she leaned in and whispered something in his ear. I couldn't hear it, but his ears flattened, and he flinched back, tucking his head. She then stood up, gave him a look of pure contempt, and walked away. I felt a rage so pure and cold it was almost calming. This wasn't just about getting rid of a dog. This was a calculated, malicious campaign of lies. She was trying to force me to abandon a loyal, innocent creature who loved me unconditionally. Why? What kind of person does that? What darkness had I let into my home? I waited for her to finish her shower. She came out in a robe, smiling, her hair damp. "So, about this weekend, I was thinking we could—" I cut her off, my voice low and steady. "I know what you did." Her smile faltered. "What are you talking about?" "The trash, the shoe. Buddy lunging at you. I have it all on video." I gestured to the laptop on the coffee table. "I was home today, Jessica. I set up a camera." The color drained from her face, leaving 2 spots of high color on her cheeks. For a moment, she just stared at me, her expression shifting from shock to a defiant, hardened glare. "You spied on me?" she hissed, the warmth in her voice gone, replaced by an icy fury. "You set up a camera in our home? That's a huge violation of my privacy, Ben. That's sick." "A violation of privacy?" I laughed, a harsh, ugly sound I didn't recognize. "You've been systematically lying to me, trying to make me get rid of my dog. You would destroy your own things to frame him. Why? Just tell me why." She crossed her arms, her eyes glinting with a hardness I'd never seen before, a stranger looking out from behind her familiar face. "Because it's always about Buddy, isn't it? I have to get home to let Buddy out. I can't go on that trip. Who will watch Buddy? Sorry I'm late. Buddy needed a walk. I'm tired of competing with a dumb animal for your attention. I wanted you to prove that you love me more, that I was your priority. I needed you to choose me." Her reasoning was so selfish, so twisted. It left me speechless for a moment. "So your solution was to torture me with an impossible choice and terrorize an innocent animal? You could have just talked to me. We could have worked on it." "Talking doesn't work," she said dismissively, waving a hand as if swatting away a fly. "You wouldn't have listened. You would have just made excuses for him. This was the only way to make you see." "See what?" That you're a liar and a manipulator? That you're capable of this cruelty? Yeah, I see it now. Crystal clear. The confrontation escalated from there. She didn't deny it anymore. She just tried to justify it, spinning a web of warped logic where she was a victim. She called me emotionally neglectful, said I drove her to it. She said if I truly loved her, I would understand and forgive her, that this was a test of my love that I was failing. She even tried to cry, but the tears looked forced, performative, lacking the genuine redness and shaking that real anguish brings. I felt nothing but profound sense of disgust and betrayal, a door slamming shut in my heart. I told her it was over. My voice was flat, all emotion spent. I told her to pack her things and get out. She refused to leave, locking herself in the bedroom. I was too keyed up, too adrenalized to sleep, so I spent the night on the couch with Buddy, who seemed to sense my distress and stayed glued to my side, resting his head on my chest with a heavy sigh. The next morning, I heard her moving around, drawers opening and closing. I went to the kitchen to make coffee, the familiar routine feeling alien, and a few minutes later, she emerged with her suitcase, her face set in stony lines. She looked at me, her face a mask of cold anger. "You're making a huge mistake," she said, her voice dripping with venom. "You're choosing a dog over a future with me. You'll regret this. You'll die alone with that animal." "The only thing I regret," I said calmly, the truth of the words settling deep within me, "is ever letting you into our lives." She left then, slamming the door so hard the pictures on the wall rattled. The silence that followed was heavy, but it was a peaceful silence, our silence. Buddy let out a soft whine and nudged my hand with his cold, wet nose. I knelt down and hugged him, burying my face in his fur, breathing in his familiar, comforting scent. "I'm so sorry, boy," I whispered, my voice cracking. "I'm so sorry I ever doubted you. It's you and me always." I thought that was the end of it. It was messy and painful, a raw wound, but it was over. I changed the locks the next day and started the process of moving on, boxing up the remnants of her presence in my home. I blocked Jessica on everything and asked my friends and family not to engage with her. For a couple of weeks, there was radio silence. The weight on my chest began to lift. I began to breathe easier. Buddy seemed more relaxed, his goofy, playful personality fully re-emerging, chasing his tail in the backyard with a joy I hadn't seen in months. Then the harassment started. It was insidious, a digital ghost haunting me. First, it was anonymous, 1-star reviews on my small business's website, claiming I had stolen money and done shoddy work. Lies crafted to damage the reputation I'd spent years building. Then, I started getting late-night calls from block numbers. They would hang up as soon as I answered, the silent void on the other end more threatening than any words. I knew it was her. The pattern was hers. I documented everything, screenshots, call logs, but it was frustratingly difficult to prove. A shadow war. The climax came on a rainy Thursday evening. The wind was howling, lashing rain against the windows. I was working late in my home office when I heard Buddy let out a sharp, startled bark from the living room, a sound he only made when truly alarmed. I rushed out to find him standing by the front door, his hackles raised, a low, continuous growl rumbling in his throat. Peering through the peephole, I saw nothing but the distorted, wet street. But then I heard a faint scratching sound at the back door, metal on metal, my heart hammering in my chest. I grabbed my phone and quietly made my way to the kitchen, my pulse roaring in my ears. Through the window, the outside light casting long, distorted shadows, I saw a figure in a hooded raincoat messing with the lock on my back gate. I didn't even think. I called the police, my voice surprisingly steady as I gave them my address. "Someone is trying to break into my house. I believe it's my ex-girlfriend, and I have a restraining order." As I waited for the police, My body thrumming with tension, I watched the figure. They managed to get the gate open and approached the back door. They pulled something out of their pocket. A key. My old key. The one I'd taken back, but apparently she'd had copied. It didn't work, of course, because of the new locks. I saw her. I knew it was Jessica now. Jiggle the handle in frustration. Then she kicked the door, a solid, brutal kick that shook the frame. That's when the police cruiser pulled up, its red and blue lights flashing silently, painting the rain-slicked walls in pulses of color. The officers approached from the front, and I opened the door to let them in, pointing them toward the back. They found Jessica there, screaming obscenities at the unyielding door. In her hand, she wasn't just holding a key. She was holding a small, raw steak. The officers were confused, but I understood immediately, the final piece of her malicious puzzle clicking into place. She was going to let herself in, leave the raw meat out somewhere, maybe on the couch or the bed, and then call animal control, claiming Buddy was aggressive, had torn up the house, and had stolen food. It was her final, desperate attempt to get him taken away from me, to inflict one last, devastating blow. She was arrested for attempted breaking and entering, vandalism, and violation of the restraining order. As they led her away in handcuffs, the rain plastering her hair to her face, she screamed at me, her voice raw and, "You ruined everything. You and that stupid mutt. I hope you're happy." I didn't respond. I just stood in the doorway, feeling a strange mix of pity for the broken person she was and profound relief that she was finally, physically, being removed from my life. In the following days, I went to police station and gave a full statement, providing all the evidence I had, the damning video from the hidden camera, the screenshots of the fake reviews, my call log, the documentation of the restraining order. I filed for a permanent restraining order, and given the circumstances, the attempted break-in, and the clear premeditation, it was granted easily. The legal process was draining, a slow, bureaucratic purgatory, but it was a clean break. Faced with the video evidence, Jessica pled guilty to a lesser charge to avoid a trial. The judge sentenced her to probation and mandated anger management classes. I didn't care about the punishment. I just wanted her out of my life for good, a chapter firmly and permanently closed. In the end, I lost a relationship I thought was real, a future I had imagined, but I discovered a truth that was far more valuable. I learned that trust, once broken in such a fundamental and malicious way, can never truly be repaired. The cracks will always remain, a chilling reminder of the potential for darkness. I learned that the love of a good dog is a simple, honest thing that asks for nothing but kindness and a warm bed in return, a love without agenda or manipulation. And I learned, most importantly, to listen to my own instincts, to the quiet, persistent voice that had told me all along that something wasn't right, a voice I would never ignore again. Buddy and I are doing fine now. We moved to a new apartment a few towns over, a place with no bad memories, with a small, fenced yard just for him. He spends his days napping in sunbeams that cut across the new carpet and playing fetch in a nearby dog park, racing with other dogs with a carefree abandon that heals something in me every time I see it. Sometimes, when I look at him, I feel a pang of guilt for ever having entertained the thought of giving him up, even for a second. But then he'll wag his tail, a joyful metronome, and bring me a slobbery ball, dropping at my feet with an expectant look, and all I feel is a profound, unwavering gratitude. He was my protector, in his own quiet way, showing me the true character of the person I was with long before I was ready to see it for myself. Our life is quiet now, simple and predictable, filled with the small, beautiful rhythms of walks and meals and quiet evenings. And after everything we went through, it's absolutely perfect.